Welcome to our final segment of Chamber Exchange, the TV show. I want to thank our sponsors, Bank Hometown and St. Vincent Hospital, for making it happen. Here with us in our final segment is Lauren Aquino, who is the Director of Development for the An Hour of Need Family Shelter. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate being back.
Yeah.
Last time we were just discussing, and last time I was here, we had gone through a major name change. We are a family shelter for people that have kids, right. Only families that have kids. And we had been around for a long time, but we didn't exist as a solid, tangible entity. We were an organization of member religious institutions, interfaith, and these people would be willing to open their congregation buildings and feed these families, right. And they would bring all these families into the buildings at night. They would have dinner, and they would do homework with the kids, and then the next day they would take the kids to school, and they would drop the parents off at a place where they could do what they needed to do for the day. And I just can't even imagine the logistics, right. You know, and it was a wonderful way to get the families off the street and to give them a sense of community and some support. But I mean, every once a week or once every 2 weeks is just like, I think that was just not sustainable after a while. So we bought a house.
Right.
And it's a beautiful house on June Street, and you would never know it was a shelter. And it's just really, it's a warm house with people running around. And I am an only child, but I imagine if I had a lot of siblings, that's what it would be like living there. And the families, it's almost like communal living in a way. It's a really wonderful place. And I'm really grateful to be here to talk about it, because we've been around since 1997 and no one knows that we exist.
Right. Well, I know you exist.
Yes, yes.
And I know that, you know, a number of parish synagogues and churches in Worcester helped launch this back in 1997. And as you described, they would host families oftentimes on the church property, and with basically volunteers from the various
sleeping at the building.
Congregations providing support, the meals, closing, and helping those families hopefully stabilize and then transition into a more stable and permanent housing situation. And as the need has grown over the years, the ability to sustain that became more challenging, and then a capital fundraising effort and acquisition of a great house on June Street.
And it feels like a home now. Like, it's amazing what these congregations were able to do for like 11 years with the bringing families into their buildings. But I mean, that's a time-intensive, very time-intensive, like with just the planning and then having the people there, and they sleep there overnight. And it was a real commitment. And what was really beautiful about it is, even though it was a number of interfaith communities, there was no feeling of pressure to belong. There was no discrimination in terms of religion, background, family makeup, gender. And that's what makes us unique, is we can do that because we're privately funded. State-funded shelters, while so necessary, often have these very stringent rules that sometimes result in separating families. So for example, I have a 13-year-old son, and I believe that at some places, most places, we would be separated at that age, males and females. So we don't have any kind of restrictions like that. We keep families together no matter the family makeup. It can be grandparents, it can be, an uncle with a child, as long as they are experiencing homeless. And they have to have tried to get in the state-funded shelter. But the situations there can be
so
tricky.
some cases they don't meet the eligibility for state-funded housing. So this is an alternative. And as you mentioned, that transition from the Interface Hospitality Network to becoming your own 501c3 and keeping the initials IHN to
I can't even believe we were able to do that.
An Hour of Need Family Shelter, you have a little more flexibility in terms of not only accepting families, but also kind of the process and timelines of hopefully moving them to more permanent, stable housing.
Well, we have a 90% success rate, which is a weird way to talk about people and homelessness, but we are very one-on-one. So your experience of homelessness is very different than mine. We're homeless for very different reasons, and we all need we all need support and housing advocacy and that kind of thing, but then we all have different needs. Some need job training, some need help with childcare and being able to work around that, whatever the reasons are. They're not always reasons for, addiction or, other types of serious issues like that.
The healthcare crisis,
Yeah.
a car, you get behind in your rent, a landlord that maybe is not
Yeah.
understanding or has got an issue themselves. And
Yeah, that's exactly it. In fact, two quick stories about some of our families now. One of our families is a same-sex couple who have a son with a lot of medical needs, and even though they are dual income, the medical issues were really a lot, and it took a lot out of them. And so the great news is that one of our fathers just was accepted into a PhD program. He's a scientist, and he was accepted into a PhD program in the University of Alabama, and they have found this really beautiful apartment there in, I believe it's in Tuscaloosa, and it's a great town, and we're really excited for them. And so they're going to have the, stable, steady, and there shouldn't be any issues moving forward. The issue for them here were the medical bills plus the fair market value for apartments, which are crazy right now.
now you mentioned you're privately funded, and we got a couple minutes left, so we want to talk about, you got an event coming up on Friday, May 10th with some great artists. That's, I assume, a big part of how you help do your annual fundraising.
Yeah, well, we have an annual event called the Evening of Hope, and the last few years since COVID, we're like, we had to be online, and so after that, we're like, let's do this big, let's make this fun, let's let people know we exist by way of this really great community event. And so a lot of people may be familiar with Cara Brindisi, who is a local artist and also a contestant on The Voice. We also have Rob Joyce, who spent the last 8 years in Nashville working with a number of talented artists and now has come home to record his solo album. And then I am sure everyone is familiar with the Hip Swayers, who are from Chattanooga, and they are wonderful, and they have been all over the country, and they have been longtime supporters of IHN. So
Hank Stoles is your
yeah,
MC. You can't
and everybody
beat that,
knows
right?
Hank. So
And that's going to be at the Brick Box.
it is.
And you're selling tickets.
We are. We're doing an online auction, so that can be, anyone can participate in that. You don't have to go to the event, but the event, if you're interested, it can be found at ihnworcester.org, and then it really pops up at you, the event. But it should be a lot of fun. We're really looking forward to it. We had a great event at JMAC last year, but we didn't have a concert, and we're just really excited about this.
Got it. Lauren Aquino, the Director of Development for An Hour of Need Family Shelter. Go on to ihnworcester.org to get information about the great Evening of Hope event on May 10th. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.